Well, let's talk now with Gabe Debenedetti. He's a national correspondent for New York Magazine. Gabe, good morning.
Morning.
Well, the president said closing the border would be, quote, a profit-making operation. How so, and how does this change things with our relationship with Latin America?
Well, it's not exactly clear how he thinks it's going to make too much of a profit. Most economic analyses I've seen of this suggest the opposite here. A lot of folks basically think that there's no way that this is going to make any money, but he's not really doing this to make money, of course, and he's been pretty clear about that. This is a political move. He's going back to campaign mode, talking to his base. He knows that, you know, people around him really like it when they can talk about immigration, when they can talk about shutting the border, and this would be yet another return to basically saying we're cracking down on illegal immigration. Rest of Latin America, obviously not very happy about it.
A number of members of his own party voted against the emergency declaration. How do they feel about this, do we think?
They're not thrilled, but of course it's very difficult for a lot of them to break from him. We haven't seen a ton of them stand up and say, I'm going to vote against this or I'm going to try and stop him. But I think you might see a little bit more of that as folks on Capitol Hill try and understand what this is actually going to look like.
You mentioned it's a political calculation. The president had his first major political rally since the Mueller report came out. There was some colorful language. There was some schoolyard taunts of his political opponents. What else came out of it that struck you?
Yeah, well, I think this is a return to the politics of grievance for the president. You could have seen him say, basically, you know, the Russia stuff is behind us now. Let's move on and talk about some issues that matter to the American people. That's not exactly how he works, of course. He went after Adam Schiff in particular, the Democratic chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. And that was really what struck me, the ability to, or his unwillingness to move on and really double down on this Russia question and turn this into, again, a partisan fight.
Does he run any risk, you think, Gabe, if the report comes out and some details are not so flattering, by sort of trying to suggest we've moved on here, does he run a risk that this could come back and bite him?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the reality here is that on Capitol Hill, at least, this fight is far from over. Democrats have made very clear they're still investigating. They still want to see the full Mueller report, and they want this to be a broad national conversation. The president has said, let's move on from this, but of course he hasn't moved on. He's still talking about it.
The president's now pushing the subject of health care. Mitch McConnell in the Senate, not so much.
Yeah.
What do you see playing out there?
Well, I've never seen House Democrats so happy in the last 2 years because they thought, oh my goodness, this is one of our lowest moments here after the beginning of the Mueller report starting to come out. And all of a sudden, the president has said, let's talk about the one issue that Democrats keep winning on. So that's why you see Mitch McConnell in the Senate more or less saying, you know, we have to try and win the Senate. We're not going to focus on this. This one's up to you in the White House here. So there's a pretty big divide in the Republican Party, but Democrats are thrilled to be talking about it again.
Could there be a pivot from President Trump? People have been talking about him potentially pivoting toward a center at some point. If he's cleared now, no collusion, and the principal conclusions in the Barr summary. If then the whole Mueller report comes out and it looks good for the president, could, heading into 2020, we see a more centrist President Trump? You think that's going to happen?
Could it happen? Yes. Do I think it's going to happen? Of course not.
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible. But as you said, we've been talking about a pivot to the center from the president for 4 or 5 years now. And he likes going off script. He talks about going off script. And whenever someone tries to hem him in, he says, that's not how I do things.
I really felt like if there was going to be a pivot, this would be the moment. But I guess it's not coming yet.
Keep waiting.
Gabe, thank you very much.
Thank you.